Dan Rubenstein, week 11 almost in the books. We got some games going on right now as we are recording this live recap episode.
Holy war!
But we are back in the home studio after a week away. Last week we were up in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yes.
We are now back in the basement here talking all things college football, everything that transpired, in week 11, sir. How you doing? How goes it?
I'm good, Ty, and I've been meaning to tell you something for some time, and I haven't been able to sort of figure out the way to articulate it, and I know people have thoughts one direction or the other, but if I could just clarify for you at the top of the show.
Where are we going with this?
Just this morning, I woke up feeling the cheesiest. Sorry. I've been wanting to tell you that for quite some time, and I keep forgetting. But yes, I woke up feeling the cheesiest. Continue.
After our cheese exchange is what you're referring to.
No, I have just seen that Cheez-It commercial 744 times in the last 2.5 days. I woke up feeling the cheesiest. And I know at some point on my deathbed, I'm going to forget the names of all of my relatives. I'll be 144 years old, thanks to some sort of plasma technology. I'll forget everything that happened in my life, and I'll be mumbling to no one in particular. I woke up feeling the cheesiest. To my cyborg nurse, thanks to the television college football experience.
I feel like Cheez-It picked up the leftover inventory from all the political ads that thankfully did not grace our television sets on this Suit Up Saturday. Dan, we had a bunch of top 25 teams losing. Georgia, number 3. Miami, number 4. LSU, number 15. Iowa State, number 17. We have games that are underway right now. You mentioned the Holy War. BYU, number 9, currently down at halftime. Washington State, number 21, also playing as well. So we'll get to those games in more detail as we do often here on our show on Tuesday, which we call the spillover episode.
Yeah.
On tonight's episode, though, we are going to go through the top things from the week that was, the biggest games, the biggest storylines, get you as up to speed as we can over the next hour or so. We're also going to read off some of your tweets. We're going to do the dude alerts at the end.
Ooh.
We've got reverbs, which are awesome. Shay did a bang-up job with these. Great calls this week, as ever. There is a lot to discuss here if you are ready to dive in. Only if you are ready to dive in.
I'm ready. Now that I'm just on the record saying I am feeling the cheesiest, let's go.
Don't forget to hit follow, hit subscribe, wherever it is you get your podcasts. Of course, forballers.com is where you can go to sign up. Any of our paid tiers, certified premium Verballer tiers, get you access to our Verballer Top 12 poll. The poll goes live at 9 a.m. Eastern on Sunday and runs for about a day or so.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in voting, that'd be the way to do it. Why don't we start, though, with what I think was the big upset of the day. It wasn't the only upset of the day, but it was the only one featuring an unranked upset of this nature. Georgia Tech 28, Miami 23, Dan. This was one that yours truly called out.
You did. Look, I said I didn't know what Haynes King's status was, so I wasn't feeling the confidence that you were feeling. And so good on you, right? That even not knowing who the quarterback would be, you were like, I'm in.
I was in because I know that Georgia Tech plays hard.
Yeah.
That was the main reason why. And I wasn't crazy about the fact that they might be working with a backup here against the Miami Hurricanes. You got to, on some level, score points if you want to beat them. But Haynes King did play. Haynes King did look roughed up in this game. He's going to need an ice bath for like a week after what we saw on Saturday, but did a great job running that offense, mainly running the offense, literally running the offense.
I was going to say, it was kind of like a end of NBA game where you do the offense-defense substitutions, except it was the running, passing.
That's
Aaron
exactly
Philo,
right.
I believe.
That's
They're like,
right.
Philo's in. They're going to try to throw it. And they did. They did on a number of occasions super successfully. Like, oh, Haynes King is in. He's going to hand it off or run it. And that's what happened.
They kept doing that thing where they were doing side-to-side motion, and then he would fake the handoff and just run it up the gut.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, that had the Miami defense on skates for a good chunk of the game. The interior line did not do its job. Tech finished with 271 yards on the ground among 8 different ball carriers. And it does sort of continue a trend, not just for Georgia Tech, because we've been saying for a while they play hard. Haynes King's been banged up for a couple weeks running, and you get him in, that obviously changes the dynamic of your offense. But the more worrying trend, I think, on the Miami side is what we have seen from the Canes defense as of late, which is kind of not pulling its weight, kind of putting too much on Cam Ward to go out there and win every game. And I think that is what I was mostly speaking to over these last several weeks. We've had Miami people comment on these shows and say, you're not being fair to Miami. And there's probably a grain of truth in that. But I think what I am speaking most to is the fact that if you are putting it all on Cam Ward the way it feels to me like they had put most of it on Cam Ward, eventually it's going to catch up with you, and it did.
Well, and it's also the context of, it's our latex salesman quotient of, it's okay to win a bunch of games and have some down moments or quarters or stretches or whatever, and that happens to a lot of pretty good teams that you're able to pull it out.
Especially this year when it doesn't really feel like there's a true dominant team. Maybe we can make the case for Oregon, but there aren't as many dominant teams this year as I think we're accustomed to seeing.
My only point was, you start putting the number 3, 4, 5 in front of your team name, then it's just like, well, is this performance befitting of the number 4 team in the nation again? Number 5 team in the nation again, that it's not a wire-to-wire show of force. And so that's all. Miami's a really good team. We just saw lapses that had us concerned, and it doesn't change a ton. They just happened to lose this game in which they had long stretches of disappointing play, and they'll have an opportunity. I think they need a couple dominoes to fall their way to get back to the ACC championship game, dominoes involving, I guess, SMU and Clemson. But they're a really good team. They got run all over, and they could not. And this, I mean, it's a Georgia Tech story to me in terms of like how they were able to win this game, but Cam Ward couldn't do everything, and it felt like even when he was doing a lot, it felt like they needed that, or else they needed incredible plays. And if you need incredible plays, it's not a great sign. And the amount of high leverage moments that Georgia Tech was able to come away with on both sides of the ball. 3rd and 18, I think, was an Aaron Philo over the middle. There was a 3rd and 8. There was scrambles from Haynes King in big moments. And there were defensive plays that, even though Georgia Tech wasn't incredible this entire game on defense, all of a sudden it's 3rd and 9, all of a sudden it's 4th and 7, whatever. And Georgia Tech was just continually able to get off the field and punctuate it with the late ability to close it out. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as if it was any kind of shutdown effort from the Georgia Tech defense.
No.
But to your point, Miami just 3 of 10 on 3rd downs, 1 of 4 on 4th downs. Tech got just enough pressure in just enough big situations to change this game with its defense. It's not always about shutting a team down, but high leverage moments, getting into those moments and finding a way to win them is sort of the name of the game. And Tech did that wonderfully here.
And then the fumble late.
Nice win. And the fumble late.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Earlier in the game, they also had like almost an 11-minute drive where they scored.
It was 10:45. Incredible.
So they really brought their A game. I give a lot of credit to Tech. I give a lot of credit to Haynes King for going out there and just sort of armoring up and going for it. 28-23, another undefeated falls. Miami goes down, Dan, 28-23.
28-23. By the way, there were a couple of moments, as Cam Ward is obviously Heisman caliber. Like, he has been pretty incredible this year. He missed some wide open moments for this Miami team, and like right up the middle, coverage bus for Georgia Tech that Georgia Tech was, and sometimes you need this, incredibly fortunate to get away with. I think it was Arroyo running up the seam wide open in the red zone that Cam Ward overthrew somebody in the corner, had a miscommunication with. There were moments, there were opportunities, but these every single team that we're following this year, imperfect. You can't say that, you know, oh my God, if only they did this. Like, we're not dealing with an otherwise perfect Miami team, just like we're not dealing with an otherwise perfect Oregon or Ohio State or any of these teams. But man, even with that kind of performance, especially on defense, game was still kind of there for Miami.
It was there. It was absolutely there. So Miami goes down. Georgia went down.
Yes, they did.
As well. Ole Miss 28, Georgia 10. This is one of our favorite games in that it was sort of a monsoon.
Early, yeah. And then you had like the
only
weird
sort of.
foggy pyro third, fourth quarter exchange. Yeah.
Yeah, where they had to wait a little bit for the smoke to clear. That was weird. Jackson Dart was injured on the first possession of this game when he threw an interception. Set up a Georgia touchdown on 4th and goal that they converted. He came back in later in the first quarter. His left ankle was heavily taped up. You messaged me later on in this game, this dude is a warrior. This dude
total animal.
Built different. What do you think got that emotion out of you? What was it that he did that you saw that you were like, man, this guy's different?
Okay, so first of all, I think it's Austin Simmons, his backup. The lefty came in and drove them down the field for a score. That was super impressive in this kind of moment, right? Under the lights, at home, with the expectations of being able to crawl into or remain in playoff contention against Georgia, and to come out cold, as Austin Simmons was, and not expecting to play in that moment, was great. Was spreading the ball around, was moving around, was really strong. And so Jackson Dart comes back in, is making plays with his feet, is throwing confidently, which I think is extremely difficult to do given his ankle's all taped up. And I don't know, no Trey Harris in this one, no problem on a certain level. Like, they're down key dudes on both sides of the ball. And there was a certain amount of confidence that Ole Miss played with on both sides of the ball. And the amount of pressure they were able to put on to Carson Beck. There are a lot of really interesting Georgia questions following this performance, and it's very specific to the context of where Georgia is. Ole Miss came into this game sacking quarterbacks like crazy. They may be the FBS or the Power Conference team leading the nation in sacks, and to do it against Georgia, to do it against a team that has the offensive brain power, allegedly, the offensive skill. I think there's definitely offensive skill there, and still have that Georgia team have no answer. I know you asked about Jackson Dart, but it's a roundabout way of saying, like, everything kind of echoed the Jackson Dart experience, where he was just kind of unfazed by the moment. The defense was unfazed by the moment. And Ulysses Bentley with some of his runs, unfazed by the moment. And so that's a lot of what we talked about coming into this game, that Jackson Dart has been underwhelming to his own standard of play in these bigger games against Alabama, against Georgia, in these moments against LSU earlier this year. And you come out of that game saying, like, man, Georgia couldn't handle that moment at all.
No.
Georgia, this is another game in which Georgia couldn't handle the moment. They did against Texas, but they couldn't initially against Alabama. They couldn't rise to the occasion last week for a good stretch of that game against Florida until DJ Lagway got hurt, and certainly couldn't against Kentucky. And that's just, it's new for us watching recent Georgia.
It's uncomfortable. I mean, I think the big question that I had coming into this one is, could Ole Miss meet that moment?
Right.
I still have PTSD from talking about it a year ago as Ole Miss played against Georgia, and they got smoked by 35. It was like, okay, well, here we are again with Ole Miss. It's going to be the same story over and over again. You're right. They rose to them. This was a breakthrough.
Which is that not the term I use when you pick Georgia?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so. I mean, this was that breakthrough. It truly was that breakthrough moment. And unquestionably, the story here was that Ole Miss defense.
Yeah.
Which was lights out. They held Georgia to 245 total yards. They forced 3 turnovers here. That's the headlining stuff.
Yeah.
After the opening series, though, to your point, Ole Miss, 5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. They forced 4 fumbles. And, of course, they had an interception of Carson Beck. Carson Beck's had a really rough go of things. He also had a fumble in this one. So I think from that standpoint, you look at this game and you say, well, whereas a year ago, Ole Miss got blown out of the water and did not look like they even belonged on the same field as Georgia, perhaps it is through their own portaling. Perhaps it is through whatever attrition Georgia has experienced. Maybe it's just a down year for Georgia. A quote-unquote down year, they're still damn good. You get my point. For whatever reason, this is the moment that Ole Miss was able to pounce. They win this game 28-10. I think Ole Miss still has a very real chance to get into this playoff. We talked about it on the preview show. they need to keep winning. They need to
Right.
keep looking like this. But 2 weeks in a row now, given how they looked a week ago, back in week 10, and now this week in week 11, beating Georgia, it's a pretty big deal. Couple left. We'll see where it goes from here. It feels like the SEC is kind of all over the place at the moment, but definitely a breakthrough. I do want to ask something about Georgia, though, if I could, real quick.
Please.
Dunzo!
Are they donezo?
What's the record?
Georgia right now, 2 losses.
Right. Bama and Ole Miss. Not bad losses, especially with how
No.
Bama performed tonight against LSU on the road. No.
Probably out of the SEC title chase.
Yeah, likely out of the SEC chase. But no, there's so much football in so many different conferences. I mean, Eli Drinkwitz wasn't totally wrong after Mizzou beat Oklahoma and said, I'm just glad we're still in the playoff hunt. Not totally wrong, because they also have 2 losses. Weren't pretty losses,
No.
Mizzou. But no, in this conference, if you finish 10-2, you're in that conversation.
Big win for Ole Miss, to say the least.
Big, huge win for Ole Miss. Hope Jackson Dart is able to heal up a little bit. Lower body injury, whatever the ankle injury was, if he just rolled it pretty badly or sprained it lightly, whatever the injury is. Hope it works out. Although they seemed like they might be in good hands with Austin Simmons. If
Looked okay. Looked all right.
he can rest up. Yeah.
Let's stay in the SEC.
Guess
Please.
who just got
Murdered. Alabama 42, LSU
man.
13.
Yeah.
Woo!
They got Zerbiak is what they got. Yeah.
Oh my God. LSU had no answer for Jalen Milroe. No answer whatsoever for him on the ground, especially. He had 185 yards, 4 touchdowns. If you just like flipped the TV and like looked away from the screen and then looked back, there's a good chance Jalen Milroe was running for a gazillion yards. They just could not catch up with him once he got started. His breakaway speed is ridiculous. We've been talking about his speed now for 2 years running. Dude can run.
Yeah.
Dude
agree.
can freaking run. When you find a way to get him on the run, when the opening is there, he not only has great straight line speed, but he's got some moves too, and he showcased all of that. Bama as a team had 312 on the ground. They were just kind of unstoppable from an offensive standpoint. 10 of 13 on third downs. LSU really just didn't provide much resistance at all.
To be fair, all of the good of the rushing attack from Alabama was Jalen Milroe. The running backs didn't do anything. I don't believe. Jam Miller and Justice Haynes, they didn't do anything especially impactful in this game. And I don't know if that's an offensive line thing. I don't know if that's seeing the lane thing. I don't know if that's a breaking tackles thing. But every single time they seemed to get the ball, there wasn't much going on. Ryan Williams, I think he had an end around that was super impressive. But no, this was Jalen Milroe and a performance for the ages for him, because they kept calling similar plays. I don't know if whatever was a counter or a trap, whatever it was sort of take a step to the left and go right, take a step to the right, go left. And LSU was like, is that even allowed? Is that okay to do in the modern world? And yeah, it most certainly was.
Well, and it kind of continues a trend for Alabama as well.
Yeah.
One that we've been talking about for quite some time. It is Jalen Milroe or bust. He is going to drop back. He's either going to run it or he's going to target Ryan Williams. And if that works, great. If it doesn't, then maybe we're in clunker territory. It worked really well, famously well in this game, because LSU clearly did not have an answer. Bama remains in the college football playoff hunt at this point.
Yeah.
They're probably going to move up. They were already in the rankings a week ago. It still is a complicated road to get into any kind of SEC title consideration. But if teams keep losing, who knows, right? That's when tiebreakers come into effect. And as I've said, I still think their loss to Vandy, if you go down to like the 4th tiebreaker, would probably have something of an elimination effect for them with respect to the SEC, but probably not as it relates to the college
Maybe if
football
Vandy
playoff.
had beaten South Carolina tonight, then it probably could have aged a little bit better. But Vandy was not all that. I mean, now Vandy's like a moral victory kind of team, having lost to Texas in impressive fashion, but not at all South Carolina. Can I say something else about this game, by the way?
Please.
Shout out to LSU for fully cursing themselves midweek by bringing in an off-brand Mike the Tiger. They bring in Mark the Tiger, whatever it is.
I wanted to talk about this.
Allegedly, I think it was the governor of Louisiana was like, bring in a Tiger. And LSU was like, I guess if you, I don't know.
Well, LSU didn't want to do it.
I know, but they relented and allowed this Mac the Tiger.
Mike the Tiger is apparently sensitive to the circumstances.
Yeah,
right?
who
It's
wouldn't
loud,
be?
and there are lights, and I'm sensitive to the circumstances, and I can reason with what's going on. So that's why they don't bring Mike. Somebody
in like a decade they haven't. Yeah.
No, it's not new. Somebody higher up on the food chain greenlit getting an off-brand Tiger, as you referred to it. It was, I guess, greenlit by the governor and apparently the Surgeon General, who Roger Sherman reported is not only a medical doctor, but also a veterinarian.
Sure.
This was against the objections of LSU's actual Tiger handlers, but the curse was on when they brought in Mac the Tiger.
Mac the Tiger. Mark Malike? I'm sorry, is this Tiger's name Malike the Tiger? Yeah, from Florida. Wasn't even local. From a allegedly suspicious Tiger handler of some kind. Guys, you can't do this for Alabama week. You just can't. Well, final score 42-6 when you bring in Mrack the Tiger.
42-13.
Not good, guys. Don't do that anymore.
LSU now has 3 losses. I think they're out of the playoff hunt. They are pretty much out of the SEC title chase unless all hell breaks loose. I don't have a whole lot to say about LSU in this game, Dan. I think the defense sort of spoke for itself. A lot was on Garrett Nussmeier. He had a really bad pick early.
It was a tough game for him,
I mean, it was just a lot on him to try and bring this team back, but there was only so much he could do given the defense and the issues that it had trying to stop Jalen Milroe.
Agree. Yeah, this is why I went back and forth in this game. I was not a believer in Alabama. After starting my evaluation as a believer in Alabama, it's tough to say, like, if you can corral Jalen Milroe a little bit, you've got a shot. Easier said than done. And LSU's defense was not the one to do it.
Let's shift gears a little bit and go over to the Big 12 if we could.
Please.
2 games in the Big 12 that were quite consequential. And I say this as we are recording this and BYU, Utah, the Holy War is about to kick off in the second half. So we won't know the final result of this one until we hit stop here. We will get to that again on Tuesday. Kansas knocked off Iowa State, gave Iowa State its second loss by a 45-36 final. And Colorado took them a little bit to get going, but Colorado ends up beating Texas Tech by a 41-27 score. So this kind of puts the Big 12 in really interesting territory, especially if things go the way they look right now in the Holy War and BYU ends up losing.
What's the score at the moment? 21-10, start of the third quarter. Yeah.
21-10. Colorado, as it stands, now controls its own destiny in the Big 12, at least to get back to that Big 12 title game.
Yes.
They have just one conference loss. They are a game clear of the next best team in conference. So it is significant that they were able to put it together in the manner that they did. 4 punts, their first 4 drives. They followed that up with 4 touchdowns and a field goal. They end up leading by like 11, 31-20, something like that after 3 quarters. They obviously go on to win here by a 41-27 score against Texas Tech. This is a nice road win for them, to say the least. The Iowa State thing to me is just straight up puzzling. I just don't get it. I remember saying to you when we did the Thursday show, I don't understand this point spread. And because of that, it's really wigging me out. This is the second straight game now where you watch the game. If you didn't watch the game, just go back and look at like the game cast or whatever.
Right.
You're going to say, oh, the Clones were more than good enough on offense. What happened? Why didn't they win the game? Again, not winning moments. They're not converting third downs.
No.
There were chunks of this game where it felt like Kansas was moving the ball at will. They ended up with a really balanced 295 through the air, 237 on the ground.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Congrats, Devin Neal became the all-time leading rusher for Kansas for whatever that's worth to you. But as a result now, just 2 weeks. 2 weeks of not winning those moments after a really strong start to the season, in my opinion, Iowa State's basically out of it. They've basically taken themselves out of Big 12 contention. technically still possible for them to get to that title game, but
Right. Need
I
a bunch
think
of help.
It's going to require an act of God. It's just been kind of disappointing. I don't know how else to put it. Disappointing these last 2 weeks if you're a Clones fan.
The difference between today's Iowa State performance and last week against Texas Tech was Iowa State was in position to win that game. They were not in position at all against Kansas.
No.
And I think, you'd be the first to say it, but Jalen Daniels woke up feeling the cheesiest. It actually, I joke, but there is something to like, oh, did Jalen Daniels actually wake up and have a great feeling back for the first time in 18 months? He came out and I think it was Quentin Skinner that he had a great connection with today, making play after play. It felt like this should have been the Kansas team that we could have been watching all year long, and they finally got their act together in Arrowhead against an Iowa State team that obviously they were taking seriously. They've been taking everybody seriously. They just haven't been able to get into a rhythm this year, especially on offense. And good for Kansas. As for the Colorado game, I went back and watched it as closely as I could as all these other games are happening. I was really impressed with Shedeur Sanders improvising. He was making plays with his feet. He was buying time for himself. They couldn't run. Colorado still has, to me, a lot to clean up. A lot of penalties. They couldn't stay on the field in a bunch of these higher leverage moments because, when they were moving the ball, it was so evident how much better they were than Texas Tech. I think it was LeJonte Wester had a bunch of explosion plays. They just, they shot themselves in the foot way too much. And listen, if you're shooting yourself in the foot, what was the final score of this one? 41-27? Yeah. You're scoring 40 points and winning by double digits. You're in a really nice place. You mentioned Colorado is in the driver's seat to get to the Big 12 championship game. But at this point in the season, I feel like they would have patched up some of those leaky holes. And so hopefully it doesn't come back to bite them if you're a Colorado fan. But yeah, that was a takeaway, that a lot of highs and a lot of puzzling lows.
I do think it is significant, though, and you're right. They've got a lot that they got to clean up. I think it's significant, though, to go on the road and get into a game like this where...
If this is a clunker, great.
Yeah, get into a game like this where it feels like you are in neutral when you start the game.
Yeah.
And then get better as the game goes on. We've said it for years. Lubbock's a weird place to play, especially against this version of Texas Tech, which, frankly, comes out of nowhere each and every week and could beat pretty much anybody in the conference. So to go on the road to Lubbock, to get better as the game wore on, to win in the manner that they did, I think that was impressive.
By the way, I didn't love the grays Texas Tech was wearing.
No.
Nothing against, I like grays for some teams. I just think the black and red works together in such an iconic way. It just threw me a little.
Congrats to Taj Brooks, by the way, all-time leading rusher for Tech.
Yeah, of course. So good.
All right, let's go to the Big Ten.
Okay.
Indiana 20, Michigan 15.
Yeah.
This one got a little bit spicy, didn't it?
It got spicy. Indiana's offense didn't necessarily move in the second half, at least forward. It was a tough watch for the Indiana offense that's been so high flying. And credit Michigan, of course. Correct me if I'm wrong. 16 yards in the second half in a winning effort?
Yeah.
That's tough. Okay, continue.
It got spicy in the fourth quarter. Indiana led 17-15. They needed their defense. They won this one with defense to some extent.
Yes, they did.
Michigan is the first team truly to hold this Indiana offense down. And Indiana just couldn't get it going on the ground.
You could argue Michigan held two separate offenses down in Bloomington. Yeah.
That is a separate conversation altogether.
Yeah.
But truly, as Curt Cignetti said in the postgame, this is the first game they didn't win with style points. He all but acknowledged it as a clunker without formally calling it a clunker. I would agree.
Yeah.
So you'll take the win. You'll obviously take the win. You're obviously going to take the first 10-0 start in program
couple big
history.
drops for Indiana that kind of changed the complexion and rhythm of this game. Yeah, but that happens.
You're gonna take 10-0 going into a bye with Ohio State on deck.
Yeah.
In week 13 with the world to play for.
Did you see the proposal, by the way? The proposal on the big screen after this? It was like, Emily, you make me feel 10-0 every day. Will you marry me?
Oh no.
I think Curt
Cignetti
posted the picture on the video board. Continue. Sorry.
Oh no. 20-50. Like, does this result leave you feeling any less confident in Indiana? Because it kind of does for me.
No, definitely not.
Why not?
It makes them seem more human. I mean, do you like Ohio State after their performance against Nebraska? I think Michigan's defense has quality players. Look, it was the first time that Indiana this year, look at their schedule. It was the first time they played all conference caliber players, plural, as far as I can tell, on a defensive line.
And they won.
And they won.
And that in and of itself is significant. It's meaningful that you'd win the game.
Yeah.
But we have had these situations before where we look at a team's schedule and we're like, is there going to be a culture shock here when they play an actual defensive line, an actual defensive unit? You can say a lot of things about Michigan, a lot of which are maybe negative this year.
Yeah.
But Michigan still has pretty good defense. Pretty good. Maybe not as good as a year ago. It's still pretty good.
It's decent, but it's a product of their schedule that they have not prepared themselves to play against players of Michigan's caliber on defense. And they didn't lose to Northern Illinois, right? They didn't sneak by a terrible team. Michigan's a decent, if not average team, but there are NFL players on this defense, and there aren't necessarily NFL players on other defenses they've played. And I don't know, every week can't be 51-13. We know this. We've watched the sport long enough that even the best teams we've ever seen sometimes have to win 27-23, 27-28, 27-26, whatever. And it doesn't make me feel like Indiana's going to win the national championship, but Indiana going 10-0 and however you can get there, fine.
Let me ask you this now. Is Indiana and Ohio State both head into a bye week?
Yeah. By the way, it's Natalie every day with you is 10-0. Will you marry me? Continue.
No. Yeah. I looked at the projections for that Ohio State game a couple weeks down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, the projection there is games at Ohio State winning that game by about 13 points. If I were to set that point spread right now for you, and it won't be this, it'll be something else. If I were to set that point spread at 13, Ohio State minus 13, 2 weeks from now against Indiana, are you taking the points or are you taking Ohio State?
Indiana has a bye?
They both have a bye.
They both have a bye before that game. I worked out really nicely for them. Right now, I'm taking the points.
I think I'd be all in on Ohio State.
Really? Okay.
I do. This one
I'd have to give it time.
Shook me. This shook me a little bit.
Okay, fair enough.
Ohio State, by the way, won 45-0 over Purdue. Congrats to Jeremiah Smith, who broke Chris Carter's record that dates back to 1984 for receiving touchdowns by a true freshman.
Nice. Good for
That
him.
is significant. The only other thing of note in this game is that the marching band formed a bear pooping on the Michigan logo during halftime. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see that. Good to know. Filing it away.
Elsewhere in the Big Ten, we had your Oregon Ducks 39-18, winning but not covering.
No, kind of a
Maryland
clunky
Terrapins.
evening in Eugene, Oregon. But if you're winning your clunky evenings, again, final score was what, 39-18?
Correct.
If you're winning by 3 touchdowns, a game in which Dylan Gabriel set the NCAA or FBS record for career total touchdowns and did so on a short little touchdown pass to an offensive lineman declared as a tight end. That was cool. He had some weird decision-making moments. They couldn't really break loose in the run game. Oregon scored on the Billy Edwards' arm was hit and a fumble, scoop, and score. They set up another touchdown with a fake punt, that specific Dylan Gabriel touchdown. He looked a little bit tentative, and they couldn't get into a rhythm going downfield a ton. And I was honestly pretty impressed with Maryland's receivers in this one, on the road, traveling across the country.
They have good receivers.
Just nice performances, but they still won by 3 touchdowns. So it was I don't know. They didn't show a ton, seemed kind of flat on offense, and won by 3 touchdowns.
By the way, Ohio State plays Northwestern next week. I misspoke.
There, you misspoke. At Wrigley.
At Wrigley. Yeah, my bad.
Okay, so Indiana might have a little bit of a bye advantage there. Continue.
Penn State 35, Washington 6.
They throttled, Ty. I was begging.
Throttled them, man.
Yeah.
Abdul Carter just worked Washington's offensive
line. Yeah.
6 tackles, 4 for loss, 2 sacks. Penn State was in the backfield all day. Washington held to just 193 yards. Drew Aller had time. He stepped into throws. He was throwing more down the field. I thought it looked like a step forward in the passing game for whatever that's worth to you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a little bit of PTSD from what we saw a week ago against Ohio State when seemingly they couldn't do much of anything. But this felt a lot more comfortable, and they won going away. So this is a nice win for Penn State. This was a Peacock game again. This was the whiteout game. This was the Peacock game.
Right.
Which drives me nuts. Drives me absolute nuts. And I wasn't going to do this. I jotted it down in the notes. I don't mean to be a mean person because I'm not a mean person.
Okay.
You know I have beef with NBC's treatment of college football.
I agree, yeah.
You know this is something that
I know this to be true.
That
yeah.
I've ranted about. It is a hard job to be an announcer. It is difficult. I don't think I could do it. And everybody deserves the right to get better at it. But on some level, you are disrespecting the fan bases that are trying to watch their teams if your announcers aren't good at what they're doing. And Colt McCoy is not good at this yet.
Okay.
He just isn't.
He needs some reps.
He needs more reps. I don't know if putting him on the whiteout game, the Penn State-Washington game, is the spot for those reps. I like Colt McCoy. He was one of my all-time favorite college football players. I hope he gets better.
I like watching with I think it's Josh Norris for Underdog Fantasy. Does some
I think he's
scheme
smart.
breakdown.
He obviously knows the game better than both you and I combined. Okay.
Disagree.
I don't want to be mean.
Yeah.
But it's a really tough watch.
Okay.
It's a tough watch. It's a tough listen. And again, this is on NBC for putting him in that situation. It's not on Colt McCoy. This is on NBC again for not knowing what it's doing. Maybe the best studio show, but the actual product with respect to the games that they're broadcasting and how they're presenting them. We've talked about this for a while now.
Right.
That needs a lot of work if they want to get to like elite level. Let's just leave it there. Put a pin in it.
So should NBC now bring in Garrett Gilbert as an emergency backup to Colt McCoy, who Colt McCoy himself is in those, I don't know what ad it is, the commercials where Colt McCoy comes in as a backup. I think Josh Dobbs does one of them.
Yep.
Smart commercials. Case Keenum. It's Garrett Gilbert time in the NBC booth. Continue.
Penn State's in a really good position. They just got to win out. You win out, Penn State, you're not going to go and play for the Big Ten title, but you're going to get in the playoff game. If you look at what the first batch of rankings looked like, they'd be hosting a game.
Right.
The committee didn't seem to dock them too much for what seemed like a pretty bad showing against Ohio State, even though the score was close. So you host a first-round game in Beaver Stadium, you got to like your chances.
Yeah.
Full stop.
I mean, I don't know if Penn State's actually a good team, but they're way better than Washington.
Way better than Washington.
Yeah.
Can we play a game here real quick?
I'd love to.
I want to call this good win or bad loss.
Oh. Do you have any music?
Here.
There we go. Let's calculate.
Good win or bad loss. So is the story of these games more the way a team won or more the way a team lost? Okay.
Okay.
Clemson 24, Virginia Tech 14.
I think it's a good win. I don't think it was a pretty win at all times, but all things considered with Clemson's season, the way they lost to Louisville, to bounce back, knowing they left a lot of meat on that bone, I'm going to say good win for Clemson on the road in the ACC. Slow start, made up for it. Good win.
I agree with that.
Okay.
You know, they don't all need to be pretty. They really don't.
Yeah.
And I thought all things considered, this is a nice win.
Yeah.
Nice road win over Virginia Tech.
I mean, look, Clemson could have finished the win and watched Florida State lose to Notre Dame 94-3, and it kind of puts it in perspective. A win is good.
Texas 49, Florida 17.
It's a good win. If a Florida team starting Aiden Warner is a shell of what it can be on offense. And Texas came out at home and erased any doubt immediately. It's a good win.
The reason I ask it is because the context here is obviously the injury for Florida at quarterback, but also
injuries. Yeah.
Injuries, thank you, plural. Also, this vote of confidence that Billy Napier got from Scott Strickland, the AD at Florida, just a few days before this game. So to go out there and lose in the manner that they did, it was, I mean, let's be real, it's a scarlet letter. This was not a good game for Florida by any stretch.
But which coach is winning that game at Florida?
I don't know if you're winning, but are you losing 35-zip at half? Are you losing 49-17 in a game that...
I don't know. Quarterback's a pretty important position. That's my take. That's my scalding hot take for the day.
Texas was completely dominant. I think that's the story. Quinn Ewers had 4 of the easiest touchdown passes in the first half you're ever going to see. Finished with 5 in this game. Quinn looked good, but...
Pretty much perfect, yeah.
Looked really, really good.
It was Marcus Golden? Who was the quarterback? Who was the receiver? I think it was... who was the receiver who popped for Texas in this?
Are you thinking of?
I think Marcus Golden is an old Mizzou player. I'm screwing up my
Matthew Golden.
Matthew Golden. There we go. He's from Houston, I believe. Yeah.
Virginia 24, Pitt 19.
I did watch a good chunk of this. Yeah.
Good win, bad loss.
It's a pretty bad loss for Pitt.
Yeah.
Eli Holstein was not there. The passing game was not there. And even it's a bad loss in that, like, I watched the end of this game, and Pitt had an opportunity and took advantage, stopped Virginia on a 4th and short, and then the refs were like, hey, real quick, psych, we weren't in position. But, like, didn't call the play dead before it happened, and they had to redo the play, and Pitt eventually got the ball back, but I believe it was Virginia kicked a field goal because they were able to extend the drive, and Pitt still had an opportunity, but Pitt was just off in this game. And I watched like 3 minutes of the post-game show. I think it's Taylor Tannenbaum for the ACC network. She was like, yeah, we're recapping this game, and there's a very angry Pitt fan who is yelling at us continually. Stadium is fully empty except for this one. Let's be real. It was a guy.
Right. He's Randy Quaid in Major League.
You couldn't hear this fan, but he was shouting something like, "We were robbed!" Bad loss for Pitt.
Notre Dame 52, Florida State 3.
Good win for Notre Dame. I mean, that's how they should perform. Yeah.
8 sacks for Notre Dame. I watched this whole thing, obviously. And there's a little bit of a Penn State complex for me with respect to Notre Dame in that I don't know how good they actually are. You know, I really don't.
I think they're good. I think they're really good.
I think they have gotten better. I don't think there's any question about that. They have gotten better. They continue to play at a really high level defensively, even despite crazy injuries, really at all 3 levels of the defense, namely up front along the line. And
lost their best corner, right?
Benjamin Morrison, right? Lost him to hip surgery, that type of thing. So given what they've got to deal with from an injury standpoint, the fact that they are playing as well as they are and getting better week to week, I think is significant. I think Riley Leonard, compared to beginning of the season, is like night and day.
Okay.
They've definitely found the right combination for him. He runs the ball probably more than anybody else on the team, but he's a really good runner, and they should use that skill set if they can. He put his foot in the ground, and made a move on somebody in this game where Florida State's guy just like breezed right past him. He never had a shot. Riley Leonard's a really good runner. They're finding ways to use him. They're finding ways to make it work a little bit better with the running game, with the passing game. It is not a conventional offense by any stretch.
Right.
It's a hybrid of a bunch of different things, but they are playing at a really, really high level. They've got their season in front of them now. If they win out, they're in the playoff. I don't know if they're hosting a game, but if they win out, they're in the playoff.
Who do they have left? They have SC.
They have Army.
Yep.
They have SC. I believe they got Virginia as well. So it's basically 3 winnable games.
Not just USC. Jaden Mayava, USC. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah. So Notre Dame's got it all in front of them. We'll see.
If I'm going to tell you after the fact, hey, Notre Dame beat Ohio State in a playoff game. Notre Dame beat Oregon. Notre Dame beat Miami, whoever, somebody of that caliber. What is that final score, and what in your mind is the reason why they're able to win that game? It's the defense is getting off the field crazy quickly. They're the Cialis team of the year.
That's right. I mean, Notre Dame's done a couple things really well, and maybe the most undersold is the fact they're playing really, really well in special teams. They keep blocking kicks.
Great. Love that.
They've been really good at just creating plays via special teams. So if they're beating a team like that, they're probably creating something in the special teams area.
Okay.
They're certainly getting off the field on defense. In all honesty, they're probably playing a game very similar to what we saw week 1 against Texas A&M.
That's fair.
The score is lower, but the defense sort of controls the line of scrimmage. Even in that game, as things were on, you saw Notre Dame grind down the A&M front with their line, which at the time had way more questions than it does now. So they're probably playing a game like that. That's probably their preferred style against a much better opponent.
Just channeling a 1999 high school dance and grinding.
That's it, baby. That's it.
That's the move. Out of a scale of 1 to 10, then we'll move on to wherever you want to go. If Notre Dame is down 4, 27-23 to take your pick, Notre Dame to Texas, Oregon, Penn State, Miami, Ohio State, with 2:47 left on the clock, what is your confidence that Riley Leonard is like, oh, he's my guy, he's got this?
My confidence?
1 to 10. 1, you're not confident at all. 10, you're like, he 100% has this.
6.5.
Okay. Fair enough.
Tough guy to sack. His sack avoidance is incredible. He's really, really good at staying upright.
Okay.
That gives him a chance to extend plays. 2 more games here, and then I want to do a couple shout-outs. We want to get to your tweets, your reverbs, all that good stuff. Rutgers 26, Minnesota 19.
Woo! I did not watch a lot of this game.
You didn't watch the Ethan Kaliak-Manis revenge game, Dan?
I did not.
What gives?
I know. There was a bunch going on.
So, first off, credit to Ethan Kaliak-Manis, who threw 3 touchdowns against his former team, transferred over from Minnesota in the offseason. And I would also credit Rutgers for getting a win against a team in Minnesota that was on a bit of a run. Remember, they won 4 straight. They covered 5 straight. And they did it without the Gila monster, Kyle Monangai.
Yeah,
he was
announced out, yeah.
He didn't play. If you're a Minnesota fan, I don't know that many Minnesota fans. I know we have people who listen who are Minnesota fans.
Right.
Minnesota is one of the teams that I bet on this week because it felt to me like this was a really good spot for them, especially given how they were kind of streaking coming into this one. And then, even after I made that prediction, news broke that Kyle Monangai was out. I saw that. I'm like, I'm in the clear.
Right.
I'm in the clear. This game was emblematic of the PJ Fleck era. This is emblematic. This was a winnable game that they should have easily won given the momentum they had coming into this one. And yet they find a way. They find a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory when it feels like they should be able to win the game like this. It is maddening that they find themselves in this situation. I watched this game in pieces. I need to go back. I need to go and rewatch like the illegal cut up out on YouTube. But I would ask Minnesota people to chime in and let me know your thoughts on this because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm off base and maybe Rutgers really played a good game and that's like you're okay with the loss.
Right. I
can't imagine given the steam that was on Minnesota coming into this one, you're feeling all that great about things given the fact they lost by 7. It seems like they should have had this one going away.
Do you think, as I correctly pointed out on this show midweek, that the unseasonable warmth in New Jersey played a crucial role? Like when you see the polar bears adjusting to climate change in the North Pole, where you're just like, they weren't built for this.
They always show you like the stock footage of like
on the ice flow because everything is melted.
The lonely polar bear alone on the iceberg.
Do you think the 40-degree swing, I'm making that number up completely, between Minneapolis and New Jersey just threw the Gophers off? Many are saying yes.
We can't rule it out.
Can't rule it out.
Game.
It's the reverse, like the SEC can't handle the North in the playoff. This is the flip of that. I love it.
Final game, UCLA 20, Iowa 17.
Back from the dead, baby. 8, clap it up. UCLA's back.
Iowa was playing a 4-string quarterback, was it?
So Iowa, yeah. So Brendan Sullivan starts. I think he gets hurt, right?
Yeah.
Brendan Sullivan gets hurt. completes a bunch of bigger passes. UCLA, this was the shocker here. Both sides of the ball kind of smothered Iowa up front.
Yeah.
Caleb Johnson did nothing on the ground, did nothing for this Iowa team. Now, this is also short week, not just long travel, but short week long travel, which I don't think we probably should have mentioned as a factor in this game. I don't know. Ethan Garbers looked sloppy at times, but was able to extend plays with his feet, was able to go downfield. TJ Harden was really good in this one. I watched this Saturday morning. UCLA is like a full-on real team in this moment. I don't know. They have USC. Again, you talk about another team that has USC left on their schedule. UCLA 4-5, I believe. We were talking about UCLA in like a 1-11, 2-10 type moment. And now we're talking about potential bowl Bruins. Really nice comeback. Nice October, November.
Yeah, I think the story is how they won. Honestly, I think the story for UCLA,
held on.
That comeback. Yeah, they deserve a shout out. Okay, more shout outs here, real quick.
Please.
Real quick. Boston College beat Syracuse 37-31. This was the Thomas Castellanos, Tom Brenneman reunion game.
Yeah.
It actually happened.
It did.
And Brenneman handled it like a pro right in the beginning. Kind of gave it a little eyebrow, and it was funny. Well,
okay, good.
You can go back. You can look online.
I didn't see. Yeah,
it was funny. He handled it well. And kudos to Boston College for pulling this one out. You like BC a lot in this game. They were about a 2-point favorite. They ended up winning here.
Better at home. Good pass defense. Even though Kyle McCord made some really nice passes. Yeah.
Shout out to Tennessee for knocking off Mississippi State. This is not necessarily a win you're going to put up on the mantle, but
came at a cost.
It came at a cost. Both Nico, Dylan Sampson get knocked out of this game. So to win 33-14, you'll take the win. They've got Georgia next up. So we're going to have to wait to see the status of both those guys. Obviously, you don't have one/both of them. It's going to create a bit of a concern, but kudos to get the win regardless.
It is nice that there are like multiple generations of Georgia fans who don't like Mike Bobo. Like there is like the LeBron Bronny component to the generational connection of not loving where Georgia's offense is in this moment. It did look, by the way, at times. I don't know why I came up with this country, but I was like, is Mike Bobo calling this offense in Latvian? Like, is there Carson Beck, like, listening to a play call, be like, I don't know what's happening right now, and then is going out and just struggling. Yeah, Georgia, Tennessee, hopefully. It was a ankle-y injury, I think, for Nico.
Yeah,
hopefully
he
back.
took a shot, I think, at the end of the first half. And, came back in for a few plays, but then didn't return.
Right.
Shout out to Mizzou. So Mizzou beat Oklahoma 30-23.
Man,
Mizzou,
what an ending.
Mizzou was dead to rights in this game.
Yeah.
Drew Pine was again playing quarterback. He was running for his life every single play. He ends up, as time is ticking off the clock inside 2 minutes, throwing 2 dimes to Luther Burden. One for a long conversion, another for a beautiful touchdown in the back corner of the end zone inside 2 minutes. Oklahoma gets the ball. Ensuing drive, Jackson Arnold drops back, gets stripped.
Oh, yeah.
Mizzou scoops and scores. That's how they took the lead. That's how they got the win. So 4 takeaways on the day for Mizzou, but some real drama down the stretch in order to get this W. And as Eli Drinkwitz said, still kind of be hanging around in the conversation.
It was sort of like, we're still in the playoff hunt, and he goes, "You heard me." So it was some line like that. I was impressed that 2024 Mizzou was somehow able to beat 2022 Mizzou, winning the game in a crazy, illogical way. And hey, good for Mizzou. Winning's better than losing.
South Carolina 28, Vandy 7. Shout out South Carolina for winning this one. Many a team have gone to Vandy at this point, and I don't know, it's been a little scary. It's gotten a little spicy, but this one was never really in doubt from what I could gather.
Diego Pavia suing the NCAA, by the way.
I saw that.
For saying the junior college, I'm paraphrasing here, the junior college eligibility rules are essentially collusion of some kind. Maybe not collusion, is not the word I'm looking for, but is anti-NIL, and Clark Lee made a statement that was like, look, you need to rule on this quickly because I need to find a quarterback for next year. And so hopefully it works out. I mean, it'd be cool to see Diego Pavia in my life for another 3 to 7 years. Sure.
All right. Elsewhere, really quickly, if I could.
Please.
G5 heated up here. Boise State played a clunker, Dan.
They did, and they won it, and that's good.
Nevada put them in the old chote hold.
They did.
28-21. Boise had some miscues early, which kept Nevada hanging around. Ashton Ginty fumbled, things of that nature. Maddox Madsen wasn't really sharp, had an interception in the first half, missed a bunch of passes that he usually completes. But all told, Ginty finishes with over 200 yards, has 3 touchdowns. Boise ends up winning this game, but it was close. It was way closer than I think many would have expected. This sort of continues a trend, like new situation at Nevada, new coach, not really great expectations for what's going to happen right away, but they've played pretty hard.
Agree.
They've played pretty hard the full way through. Both Army and Navy won. Navy knocks off USF. Army 14-3 over North Texas. Get the W. Still undefeated.
Yep.
Texas State beat Louisiana Monroe by 21 points, 38-17. Louisiana moves to 8-1 with a win. And my favorite stat of the day is of the 12 teams in the MAC, exactly 6 of them have identical 5-4 records.
What did I call it? The most acceptable conference, the MAC?
The most acceptable conference.
Yeah.
Everybody, not everybody, but half the teams
A good chunk, yeah.
have the same record.
All right. Good job, guys. What else do we have?
I think that's it.
You want to role play?
I would love to do a little bit of role play here. So this is that moment where we put out the tweet each and every week saying, I am a blank fan, and right now I am feeling blank. You tell us how you're feeling. We read them aloud. We also play Arnold.
Role play.
If I'm not me, who the hell am I?
Who do we got, Dan? Who do we got this time?
Roger Sherman says, Mike the Tiger and betrayed. Yeah, agree. Florida State, numb. Yeah, that's about right. You shouldn't. If you're a Florida State fan, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but you've got a nice little opening. The window of opportunity has been robust on Saturdays these past few weeks. Take advantage.
Yeah.
Work on your abs. Go volunteer. Do something.
Work on your abs.
Yeah. Oh,
Great.
like you couldn't benefit from a better core tie?
Who
I
couldn't?
definitely could.
I sit on a chair most days. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely benefit.
Indiana fan, undaunted. Love to hear that. Purdue fan, this is some old Oak and Bucket connection. Glad it's finally basketball season.
Yeah.
I don't think Purdue has the 9-foot dude anymore, right?
No,
He's in
no.
the NBA.
He's in the
Zach
NBA.
Edey.
Yep.
Iowa fan, feeling is anyone not injured? Yeah, Iowa's pretty beat up. Cal fan, feeling relieved. Cal beat Wake in a shootout. Yes.
Yeah, I have a reverb here that is going to cover this game better than I ever could.
Okay, fair enough. Texas, back baby. Okay. Georgia Tech fan, over the moon.
Yeah.
Iowa State fan, and I'm feeling heartburn. All been there. Have all been there.
Oh yeah.
I'm an Oregon fan, and I'm feeling another big man score. Whoa, settle everybody. Settle
Chill
down,
out. Chill
everybody. I'm a Florida State fan, and I'm not feeling, again, go. Tennessee, lost without Nico. Yeah, I hear that. UCF fan. That Dan Rubenstein should forever refer to this team as an example of elite loser. Truly a skill. Arizona State, man. Just keep stacking the W's. Kenny Dillingham. Keep stacking those W's. Virginia Tech fan, I'm feeling that some coaches need to be launched into orbit. I've been there. Iowa State, like we're done for. Canes, like we got out-coached. Michigan fan, and I'm feeling indifferent. Penn State fan, extremely bored without a whiteout. With a whiteout whitewashing. Yeah, man. Happens.
All right. Yeah. Is Zach Edey really 9 feet tall? I didn't think he was that tall.
What do you mean, is he really 9 feet tall? Would you have just heard about it via me on November 10th that a 9-foot tall basketball star exists? No, I think he's like 7'4".
It's 1 a.m. Eastern time. Give me
Yeah,
some.
9 feet tall. Yeah, he's the full size of a baby whale. Yeah.
All right. Those
Okay.
are your fan tweets.
Yeah.
You want to do dude alerts?
Please.
Who do we got this week, Dan?
We have, in a losing effort, Jalen Noel at Iowa State went for 167. Jalen Milroe Absolute dude. Undeniable. How can you say otherwise?
What a performance.
Bryson Daly did it all for Army, surprise, surprise, but had to do it all because they only won 14-3 at North Texas. We talked about that game being kind of weird and potentially interesting. Cam Ward, dude, in a losing effort once again. How about Kattenhauser, Ty? 5 touchdowns.
He's back.
Interim coach, ECU, demolishes FAU. How about that? Jalen Daniels at Kansas. Again, woke up feeling the cheesiest. Fernando Mendoza at Cal had a really nice game in their win over Wake. I don't know. Do you have anybody else?
Well, I just want to circle back to Jeremiah Smith, who broke the record from Chris Carter.
That's true. We had a bunch of records. We had
Taj Brooks, who set the record at
Dylan
Texas
Gabriel.
Tech.
Yeah.
Dylan Gabriel. Yeah.
Okay.
Last but certainly not least, 855 Verbal 3 is the Reverb line, the phone number. Got a bunch of great calls here. They filtered in all throughout the course of the day. Shay cut them up, put them together into about a 3-minute clip. We will call them tonight and forevermore your Reverbs. Have a listen.
Ole Miss fan here in Minnesota. All I got to say is, hotty toddy, oh my God!
Dan Ty, this is Matt from Pennsylvania.
This is Sean calling from Okinawa, Japan.
Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm from Camarillo, California, where I came one street away from getting evacuated this week due to the fires. And Virginia Tech's offense is still the biggest disaster I've seen.
I just finished watching Ole Miss with its biggest program win in 9 years. I don't care about a playoff. This defense played its ass off tonight, and that's something I'm going to remember forever. Go Rebs.
Have you ever put a jawbreaker in a microwave and watched it melt into a puddle of goo? That's what it was like watching Carson Beck in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Wake Forest is now woke Forest. The Calgorithm strike. No run game, no O-line, no problem. That's Cal's first conference win outside the state of California since 2019.
So someone threw a water bottle at Shiloh Sanders today, and he was so nice to return it.
The Yukon Huskies and the Fighting Jim Moros are 7-3. What a time to be alive, baby. Let's go. Rank 'em cowards.
Guys, the year is 2024. Animals should not be on the sideline of game, except for Ralphie. Ralphie can stay on the sidelines. But that's just a giant cow, so I think that's all right. But tigers, they should not be on the side of games.
If you kidnapped my fiance and dog and said you could only get them back, but you have to watch only the third quarters of an Oregon football game, I'd just start another life, dude. Go Dogs.
What's up? This is Ben from Tucson, and you can't lose if you don't play. Your Sun Devils, they're 7-2, baby. Kenny Dillingham is the real deal. We're coming for that conference. I know you said we were out, but we're still in it. Works up, baby.
Bears should not be on the side of games. Eagles, I guess I'll give a pass on Eagles. They're probably all right. As long as they have a handler. That's kind of cool. I will say an eagle flying over a game. Pretty cool.
Steve from Atlanta didn't call this week, so this is Shay from Madison calling about 10-win Indiana. Smoke him if you got him, boys. Coach Sig wins again.
Jerome Moore has got a little bit of Mario Cristobal on him.
Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets just beat a second-ranked team from Florida. Let's go. Go Jackets.
I think the question that Miami has to ask itself is, does Mario Cristobal have a fumbling in the last minutes of a game against Georgia Tech problem?
Whopper, whopper, double whopper. Bama scored another touchdown. LSU is overrated. Have it your way. Because BK lost another big game. You suck.
Guys, on second thought, alligators are also fine on the field. Other animals that could probably be on the field. Maybe not a snake.
Snake's probably going to get out of whatever cage you bring it in. Spiders, I mean, they're already in the stadium, so that's probably fine. Foxes, they find a way in the stadium. Oh, squirrels, considering only that's it's not, maybe I was over there, so I think maybe,
I like that we had the full zoology experience there.
I mean,
with the Week 11 Reverbs.
What we're truly missing is a giant helicopter with like a rescue orca being flown through the field, rescuing an orca on the way from being trapped in some nets to some sort of safe place. That's the next frontier for college sports. By the way, in the comments, Nico is should be okay for next week against Georgia. So we like to see that.
That's good. That's good. I mean, we want to see a good game.
Yes.
We want to see him hurt. All right. Well, thank you to everybody who called in. Again, 855-VERBAL-3. We open it up every week. If you want to send us texts during the week, you are more than welcome to do so. I have not figured out how to actually respond, so just bear in mind. Yeah, I can't. I don't know how to respond.
Can you go to the Genius Bar? Can you go to like somebody to teach you? Can you get a Best Buy Geek Squad member?
I'm sure somebody could teach me how to, but I have yet to. So if you haven't heard back, if you text and you haven't heard anything back, that's why. We read them, and I figured out finally a couple weeks back how to get the damn notifications to stay off of my phone, which is good
for you.
But I still haven't figured out how to actually respond.
By the way, full circle, because we started talking about the show feeling the cheesiest. Political answers are not permitted here. Political ad answers. Is there a commercial that you feel like is the defining commercial for you this season, now that we're 11 weeks in, this year's Dr. Pepper and Pitbull kind of thing?
I mean, the Dr. Odyssey stuff is just preposterous.
Stamos is on, right?
I don't know how this show is on TV.
It's Stamos time. Yeah.
How is this show on TV? How are they doing this? Where is this money coming from?
I don't know why this is it for me. It's not Dr. Odyssey. It is I'm sitting there pouring cereal for a kid. I'm sitting there making onions. I'm sitting there making a bed. And every few minutes I just go, Majorca. Because that's what the caveman said when they're playing the word game. We honeymooned here, Majorca. And I just say Majorca to nobody all the time. And I hate it, but I'm going to keep doing it. Majorca. Okay,
right in solidverbal@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow all of our audio feeds wherever it is you get your podcasts. Look for the Solid Verbal. Hit follow, hit subscribe. If you're out on Apple, leave us a star rating or a review. All that stuff helps more people find the show. As we round the bend now officially into the middle of November, these last couple of weeks are when things are really going to heat up. We've got big games each and every week. Conferences are going to be decided here, or at least matchups in conference championship games are going to be decided over the next 3 weeks or so.
Oh, baby.
There's going to be a lot riding on this. So we hope you'll be here with us. We hope you'll be calling into the Reverb line. And, of course, joining us here as we do these recaps every Saturday at midnight for the rest of the regular season, Dan. I think that's all I got, man. That was a pretty good week. Suit Up Saturday was a good name for this week. I think the quality of games were good. We saw a big upset. We saw a bunch of teams lose. Again, there will be a lot of movement at the very top of the standings, the very top of the rankings, and we're going to get to do it all over again next week. I'm excited.
Who did we have? We had Haynes King suit up, and it made a difference.
Yeah.
We had DJ Lagway not suit up, and it made a difference. We had Garrett Green not suit up, and Nico Marchio came through in the win over Cincinnati. So a lot of suitor uppers worked out for a lot of teams. So I had a blast this Suit Up Saturday, Ty.
For that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildebrand. Thank you, as always, for downloading, for listening, for supporting the show. We'll talk to you all on Tuesday. In the meantime, stay solid.